Hello, my CNC brother or sister. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, the company that provides you with the CNC router bits to carve out your amazing CNC projects. Welcome to this video where you and I are going to go through the entire process from design concept to actually making on your CNC router a marble maze. This is going to be a very deep dive video where you are going to learn a ton of stuff about designing and thinking through a project ahead of time, to setting up the toolpaths, to getting it on your CNC router, and ultimately coming up with an assembly. We have the maze and we have the cover, we have the screws. All this stuff has to be taken into account. And how and where to get a maze to actually make a working marble maze. You can't just come up with any maze. So this goes so deep that I've had to break this up into 3 distinct videos. Video number 1, this one, is how to come up with the design concepts and thinking through the design with the end game in mind, that this is an assembly and this is what it's going to look like when it's done. We have to have a good picture in our mind, be able to translate that into our design, build the design up right, come up with the multiple components. So you're going to learn lots of tools like sheets and layers and all the different things that are going to make this thing come together. And then video 2 is actually going to go through the toolpaths and the thinking process of a toolpath or multiple toolpaths and how you need to progress through them. And then video 3 is where we actually bring this out to the CNC router and make it. And I'm going to talk to you about materials, how to hold projects down. In fact, you're going to learn more in these 3 videos than you would watching maybe 60 to 70 other YouTube videos, because I am going that deep with you. You're going to learn a ton of tricks. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to start right off with how to find the right kind of maze and import it into your software, make sure it works, and then we'll go into the design and think through the design, and then of course finish the design in this video. And you're going to learn, like I said, a bunch of tools in the software. Now I'm going to be working in Vectric VCarve Pro. The concepts will work in most design softwares, but I use VCarve, so that's what I'm going to be teaching you on. Before we get up to the computer, which we're going to do in just a moment, I just want to let you know that down below in the description, I have information and things that I talk about will be linked down below. So with that, we're going to get up to the computer, and the first thing I'm going to show you is where to find a maze so you can start making your marble maze. Are you ready? Let's get going. idcwoodcraft.com. I'm up in my office now, I'm at the computer, and I'm ready to show you how to start off building the foundation to a marble maze, which is the maze itself. And I'm going to show you how to get a maze. There is a very specific type of maze that you need to get when you're designing up a marble maze. So the reason this section of the video about getting the maze, the proper type of maze, is so important is because when you're carving a marble maze on your CNC router, one of the things that you have to pay attention to is the thickness of the walls around the maze itself. Most mazes are just pencil lines, and we can't carve that. So we have to find a maze generator that will actually make the thick walls. And that's exactly what we're going to do to start off. So first, the maze, the foundation, and the right kind of maze. So I'm going to get right to the computer. I'm going to show you where to get the maze right off the bat, because that is the first thing you need to get. Let's go. Now, the first thing you need to do is get a maze. And the way you do that is by going to a maze generator through Google or whatever search engine you use. But there are certain types of mazes you can work with and those that you can't. And I'm going to show you what you cannot work with when you're making a marble maze with your CNC router. So we're going to click this maze generator right here. And it opens up and you see these 4 different mazes. Now we're going to zoom into the one on the left. It's a rectangular, just normal maze. But there's something here that you need to watch out for. You notice that all the lines in the maze are very thin, or the walls that define the track. Those walls are way, way too thin in order for you to carve. If you try to carve the tracks out with thin walls like that, everything will break and you won't have a maze. You need to make sure that the walls of the track are thick. And so we have to find the right maze generator so that we can actually get a maze that you can carve. I'm going to link down in the description of the video the one that I like to use. And when you click that link, this is what it's going to look like when you come to the web page. You're going to have several fields that you can adjust. Now there are only two fields that we are going to adjust here, is columns and rows. And the numbers in here have to be very specific relative to your project material size and the router bit that you're going to be using and the size of the ball bearing or marble that you're going to be setting inside of this whole thing. So first of all, we're going to be using a 3/16 ball bearing. Of course, like that will be linked down below as well. We're going to be using a 1/4-inch ball nose end mill to carve out the track, and we'll be using other router bits for other things. But that ball nose end mill is the key element and the size of the material. So we're going to be using a 12-inch by 12-inch project size. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm going to be making 4 different marble mazes off of a 24-inch by 24-inch piece of material. So I've got it segmented into 4, which is going to be 12 by 12. Now the particular material that I'm using here is something I'll talk to you about in just a minute. It's called BAMX. There's a reason that we are going to use that material, and I will recommend that you use it for this project. But here's the deal. That marble maze and the marble has to all fit within a certain area on the project. So that's why we have to take all that into account. Because this takes a little thought and understanding and some repetition, that I want you to follow everything I'm doing here based on a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of material. Your columns and your rows need to be set to 15. That's all you need to change here. You'll come down to the bottom of the page and click Generate Maze. And now you see you have a maze that has nice thick walls, and you'll be able to carve out the tracks without any worry of breaking anything. But we need to see the solution on this maze. So you just click the little blue button that says Solve Maze. Now this maze, I don't really like this because it's not running around the middle of the maze so much. It's going up around the side. So I don't like this one, so I just click Generate Maze again and Solve Maze. Now I can work with that, and I don't really like that. We're going to do it 1 or 2 more times. Now you may have to do this multiple times until you find one that you like. Okay, so this is the one we're going to rock and roll with. There's a lot of real estate the ball bearing has to travel along. So now we have that, we need to get the bitmap of the maze. And the way you do that is by clicking the little link there that says Download Solved Maze. You're going to click that, and when you go to your downloads directory, which is right there, there is the maze we are going to be working with. Now you have a maze. This is that easy. You just may need to generate the maze several times until you find what you like. Now we got to get it into the design software and size up the maze before we do anything else, because you don't want to design this whole thing out and then find out that the machine can't carve the maze. We're going to go into the Vectric design software. This is the design software that I recommend, I use, and if you haven't decided on design software, I suggest you use this. And if you would, use the link down below in the description, and I'll get enough to buy maybe a burger or a beer. Anyway, so now we need to set our job up. Now remember, I said it was 12 by 12. So this is a single-sided job. And like I said, we're going to set it up on a 12 by 12. And now we have to know the thickness of the material. And this is where this BAMX comes into play, the material that I've made this out of. The first thing that's really cool about this is right off the machine. All I had to do was screw on the piece of plastic, which we're going to be designing here along with the maze itself. It's a finished product right off the machine. I didn't have to do any finish work, staining anything. I actually didn't even have to do any sanding. So this BAMX material is bamboo. It has a bamboo core in it and then bamboo ply on the outside, and it's a 3-ply material. But the beauty about this is it is multi-toned. You get the dark color on the outside, you get the light color on the inside. There's several different tones that you can get. I will link this down in the description, but it's nice and solid, and it's super consistent on its thickness, and it's very flat. If you've ever gotten some material from the store, you know that it's just not completely flat like it needs to be. And I know it's flat by measuring it all the way around, and from board to board it consistently stays the same, 0.755. I don't even need to guess anymore. It's that high quality. Little pricier, but coming right off the machine, finished like that, that's definitely what you want. But we are going with the 12 by 12 piece, and I know my thickness is 0.755, so that's what I'm setting up. And my Z position, I'm going to set it off the machine bed. And then finally, we're going to use the back left corner of the material to set my 0 point. Now you can set this anywhere you want. You can go to the front left corner like many people do, but I like to set it back there because I want my machine gantry out of the way after it carved so I can vacuum things up. With that, we're going to click OK, and our project material is set up. Now we need to import the bitmap that we created. And the way you do that is simply go up to File Operations and look for this icon just like that, that says Import Bitmap. Now, if you're using Vectric software and up in your file operations, you only see 4 icons and not 8. You want to get these 4 icons up here, and the way you do that is by going up to the Edit at the top left, click that, go all the way down to the bottom, click Options, and a menu is going to open up. Scroll down a little bit until you come to General Settings. Go down to the 4th item, says Show Additional File Operations. Yours will say no. Simply click in the field where it says no, and then this little arrow is going to pop up at the end of the field. Click that, click the word yes, and click OK, and that menu will show up. All right, so now we're going to import the bitmap. The way we do this is simply by clicking this button, Import a Bitmap. And you go to the directory and double click that bitmap, and there it is. Now we need to scale this bitmap to the proper size. And I already know the size that we need to use. So we're going to literally scale this up. It's the first tool you're going to be learning, and that's the scale tool. And here's what we do. We're not going to try to manually scale this because I've worked with this enough. I'm going to scale it up, and we're just going to verify that it works. So while this bitmap is highlighted, you're going to come over to Transform Objects. The second icon in, when you hover over it, it says Set Selected Object Size. Or you can press the letter T and that will come up. So I'm going to click the icon, and right down here where it says width, there's a number. It says 3.22892, and down to the below in the height it says the same thing. First, you want to make sure this little checkbox is checked where it says link X and Y. And then you can change the number in either one. We're going to change this to 8.25. And you're going to notice that the height changes with it. Click Apply, and you're going to notice the bitmap is going to upsize. And there it goes. Now we have the proper size. Now that we have this bitmap in here and we've scaled it up, we're going to trace the bitmap so we have all our lines, and then we're just going to do a quick verification that the whole track will get carved properly. So it's a very quick, rough check to make sure that we have sized this appropriately. So first, let's trace the bitmap. We're going to close the set size function, and we are going to come over to trace bitmap. That's going to be under create vectors, bottom row, and you hover over it, it says trace bitmap. You want to make sure the bitmap is selected, and it is right now because it's full color. If it's not selected, I'm going to go off to the side of the bitmap and click, and you'll see it's grayed out. And that tells me that the bitmap is not selected. So we're simply going to hover over it and click it. Now it's selected. Now we can go to this button called Trace Bitmap under Create Vectors. Click that. And first thing we want to do is click our color or black and white. And what I want you to do is click the color button, not the black and white button. Color button. And what's going to happen is all these color palettes are going to come up. Since this bitmap only has 3 colors in it that we can see, white, black, and red, we want to dial this color palette down to those 3 colors. And we do that by sliding this slide bar all the way down until the number at the right of it says 3. And you look down below, now we have black, red, and white. So what we want to do is click the check mark next to the black. Now, when you do that, you're going to notice that all the black in the bitmap is going to turn a yellow color. So we're going to click that, and that is exactly what we want to see. We want to see the yellow color. Now, you still see the red in there. It's kind of faded out, but what this is telling me now is it's going to trace around everything that's yellow. If I was to click the white or check the white palette, and everything else is going to turn white. And what that means is it's going to trace around everything that's yellow. And we don't want that. We want the track. So we're going to uncheck the yellow and or the white and just make sure black is checked. And then down where it says corner fit, make sure that that slide bar is slid all the way over to tight where it says 100%. Then you can come down to noise filter and just bring that noise filter up to 10 pixels all the way up. Basically what that does is that reduces the resolution. It will make sure that your corners are tight. And then you come down and click preview. And that's going to show you all the vectors that have been traced, and it looks good. So we click the apply button and close. We have got the trace around the entire track. Now we got to turn off the bitmap, and we got to set this up to make sure it's going to carve based on our scaling. So what you do is, first of all, we have to turn off the bitmap. It is still turned on. If you go up to the layer area right here where it says layer 1, and click the word layer 1, this menu will open up. And you're going to see bitmap layer and layer 1. In order to turn a layer on and off, you go to the little button over to the left of whatever name it is and click it, and that layer will turn off. Now you'll notice that when I click it, the bitmap will go away and we'll just have lines left, just like that. Now, if you don't understand layers, just follow along with me. I'm going to link down below a video that I've made that walks you through layers, explains it all to you so you understand how layers work. But I am going to explain it this way. Is a layer is basically like those old overhead projectors that we had, and the professors had a, if I can find it, they had those pieces of clear paper they would write on, and it would project over to the wall, and then they could put another piece of clear plastic on, write on it, and it will project over top of it. It's essentially the same thing. Think of it like this. One of those plastic pieces has this bitmap image of the maze on it, and now the next layer, which is a new piece of plastic, has all the lines we just wrote on or just generated, the bitmap tracing that we did. And so now we can pulling out that piece that has the bitmap on it so it's out of our way. And that's exactly what layers do. By turning it off, you're effectively pulling that piece out, even though it's still there. And you're making it so you're just kind of cleaning things up. Definitely go watch that layer video. I will link that down below. So here we are, and we have now got our maze. Now, before we do anything else, I also want to change the name of this layer so that I know exactly what it is. And the way you change the name of the layer is by clicking on it while it's highlighted, and now you can see you can edit it. And I'm going to call this maze. Now we're set up. Now we can simply click off the menu and it will close. And oops, I didn't do that. So we're going to click that again. I'm going to type maze and hit enter. And now we can click off of it, and you notice right up top it says maze. So now we've created that maze. Now we got to verify that this is going to actually work. The first thing that you have to do is create a closed boundary around this maze so it actually carves it properly. If you do not do this step, this is not going to work for you very well. So here's how we do this. We're going to get a rectangle. You go to closed, create vectors, go to the rectangle function, click that, ignore everything that's in the draw rectangle menu. Simply come over and to the upper left corner or upper right corner, lower right corner or lower left corner, hold your left mouse button and create a rectangle all the way around your maze. And that's it. Now you can close the maze function. Now we're just going to do a test carve to make sure this is going to carve out properly. And the way you do this is, first of all, we want to go over to toolpaths. And here's a quick pro tip shortcut for you you're going to love. When you want to switch between design and toolpath, you can hit the F11 or F12 button and it will toggle between the two. So I'm going to hit the F12 button, and now the design menu went away and the toolpath menu has opened up. We are going to do a pocket toolpath in this carve, because that's essentially what it is. First, we have to select all of our vectors. And the way I did that was I just held my left mouse button down from the right and drug it to the left. Kind of important. And then you're going to come up to toolpath operations and you're going to go to the second icon which says pocket toolpath. Select that. We have to create a cut depth. And the cut depth we're going to be working with is 0.25. Don't worry about your start depth. This is just a verification run. We're going to set our cut depth to 0.25, and then you need to get the right router bit. Now you notice right now it says ball nose 1/4 inch, which is exactly the bit that we're going to be using. But I want to make sure you know how to grab that bit out of your database if you're not populated that way. So the way you do that is by clicking the bits that are in there and click remove until they're all gone. Then click the select button and your router bit database will open up. Now you're going to notice sometimes you can't read all the words here because it runs off the edge. The way that you can actually make it so you can see it is come over to the left of this menu. You're going to see your cursor turns into this sideways arrow. Hold your left mouse button down and just drag it over. You're going to open up or expand that window. Perfect. So you want to scroll down through the database that you have until you come to a ball nose end mill. So here's the ball nose. Now, if you don't have any ball nose end mills or you're not looking at a database like what I have right here, that's understandable. If you've just gotten the Vectric software, you want to populate your database with everything you need at idcwoodcraft.com. As you see right here on the screen, you can go right to the menu at the top, click database downloads, and you'll get the database for your Vectric software right there for free. All right, so make sure you get that. You're going to click the ball nose end mill. Now, you can use this regular flat end mill, but you want this nice track for that ball to ride in. So now we have the ball nose selected. I'm going to click select, and all we're going to do at this point is simply calculate. Now I'm not going to worry about any of the toolpath settings. We're going to calculate and do a print preview or preview all toolpaths, not print preview. And we're going to take a good look at this, and it looks like the entire maze is carved out. What I am looking for at this point is number one, to make sure the entire maze gets carved out. But I'm also looking for this little feature right here that you're looking at in the close-up where the bit didn't actually make it all the way across. And what that created was a stop for the ball bearing and basically made the maze ineffective. It will show up here, and I actually want to show you what that looks like. But here it looks like we are good. Let me show you what it looks like real quick. I'm going to close that menu, and we are going to go back to the 2D view. So we do that by clicking 2D view tab. And I'm going to click this selection so everything's selected and these beads come up. I'm going to come up to this upper left bead, upper right bead, the white one. When my cursor turns into a crossed arrow, I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and change the size of it. So now we've changed the size. And I'm going to come over in the toolpath area and click this button that says recalculate all toolpaths. It's recalculated everything, and now we're going to go over to this button that says Preview Toolpaths, and we are going to reset the preview and preview all toolpaths again. And now we notice that we don't have a channel cut all the way through. And that's going to happen in a number of places. It's right here, right here, right here, right here, all over the place. It's kind of hard to tell, but you want to make sure it's good. So in order to fix that, I'm simply going to hit Control Z to change the size. Whoops, we need to get out of that. Okay, Control Z to change the size. We did. We're going to recalculate the toolpath. Click OK. Simply take a quick look at it again by resetting the toolpath profiles and run it again, and everything looks good. Well, we've been at this for a little bit, and my friend, we still have quite a long ways to go. But I do hope that you're starting to already get something out of this video, some tips and tricks about designing and how you need to think about things ahead of time, like actually getting a maze, getting it put into your software, and making sure the maze is going to work first and get it sized. If you're getting something out of this video already, then take a minute down below and hit the thumbs up button. Just let me know, hey, I'm liking where we're going on this thing. And I want to remind you, down below in the description, there is information and links of the things that I'm talking about. We still have a long way to go, my friend, but I promise you're going to learn so much stuff by the time we're done just designing this thing. All right, let's get back to the computer and continue on. What we have done now is verify the toolpath. At this point, though, I want you to take a close look at this carving to make sure this is carved all the way through on all these channels without any little humps. You'll be able to see it in this picture right now as you've carved it. And if it is, then you need to upsize things just a little bit more. But with that, we're ready to move on with this marble maze. Now the real designing begins for your marble maze. And I'm going to tell you the various steps that we're going to go through to create this maze. So we are looking at this finished maze right here. It's got the plastic piece on top, so we have to design that and the other elements. But here is what we have to design. Two components, the plastic part and the maze itself. Let's talk about the maze itself. The plastic part we will make first on the CNC router, but we're going to design it based on what we do right here. Here is what we're going to do with the maze. First of all, we have this maze right here, and we'll just make it very basic and very simple. So the marble has to go through like that. What we have to do is create an outer track for this maze all the way around. It's the only way it's going to work for this type of project to actually make it work. So we're going to actually create a boundary. It's kind of like that one that we created around the maze before, but we're going to be much more precise to fit the router bit, and it doesn't carve out a whole bunch of material. So we have to do that. And then we have to carve out this recess. We have to determine the recess here, which is going to be bigger than the marble maze itself. Let's say that this is the maze track, that kind of width right there. It goes like that all the way around. We need to leave enough room for the screws that are going to go in the screw holes. So we have to actually create a bigger thing, and that's going to be for this cover right here. Right? We got to create the cover. It's going to have to be screwed down, but it can't interfere with the visual of the marble. So we have to know the screw size, which we'll get to in a little while. So essentially, we're going to design that outer recess where this plastic piece, this guy right there, is going to drop into. And we're going to do it at a certain depth based on the material that we have. Then we're going to do the outer boundary. Basically, it's going to be a rectangle, but it's going to be radiused or kind of around on the top, arched on the top, arched on the bottom, and we're going to have radiuses on the corner just like this. So we have the arch going across here, the arch under here, it's radiused on all four corners, and this is a straight corner, and this is a straight corner. Then we have to set up our drill holes. So we're going to set that up accordingly. You're going to learn tools all along the way of how to do all this stuff properly and measure things out. And we're going to drill these drill holes right on the machine, and then we're going to go to our plastic piece, and we're going to use the outer boundary, that recess, with the screw holes, and we're going to use this information right there to create the plastic cover for your marble maze. So it's still going to be very involved. We're still going to keep going. I just want to let you know what we're going to be doing. First thing we're going to do is create the outer track for the marble. So let's get back on the computer and set that up properly. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the design area. We're going to leave this toolpath here. Even though it was an experimental toolpath, we will work with it again. We're going to use the information on it. But first we got to design everything else on this project. So we're going to close out the preview toolpaths, and I'm going to click F11 to go back to design, and then I want to come up to the tab up the top, and I want to go to 2D view. And now we're looking back at our project. I'm going to click off so I can see everything. Now the first thing I want to do is delete this rectangle right there. So the way I do that is simply click on that and hit the delete button on your keyboard, and that is gone. Now we're going to create the outer track for this marble. and we want it to be in scale with the inner tracks. So we're going to go back and create a rectangle. By going to create vectors, click draw rectangle, and we want to make sure that our snap is turned on before we actually draw anything. So when you look up in the upper right corner, you're going to see these two icons in the version 12 and above, and you want them to be like that kind of bluish color. If they're grayed out, then they're turned off. You want them turned on. Here's what I mean when I say grayed out. I click that, that is now turned off. When I click it again, it's turned on. Same with this little line that goes up through there. If I click it, it goes gray, everything goes gray. When I click it again, everything comes in. We are turned on. That is our snap function. So we're going to draw a rectangle. What that snap function does is, if you look at my cursor, there's a plus sign down at the lower corner. When I get near the corner of that rectangle, the cursor changes into kind of a target with a square hole in the middle. That means it has grabbed the corner of the area that I'm hovering near. So if I'm hovering near this corner right here, it's grabbing that corner. I want to grab the upper left corner. I'm going to click my mouse button and hold. And so now I'm creating a rectangle, and I'm going to swing that all the way down to the lower right corner until my cursor turns into that same kind of square target again. Then I'm going to let it go. And now, if you look along this line right here, you can see there's a dashed line right along. I'm going to hit the escape button, first of all, to turn off the draw rectangle. Now you can see the little dashed line there. That just tells me that that rectangle is there. What I want to do is change the size of that rectangle. And we're going to increase the size by 1/4 of an inch all the way around. While it's selected, we can go into Scale Objects, or set the scale up in Transform Objects. So you click Set Selected Object Size, click that, and it says 8.25. We are going to change that to 8.75. And what that's going to do is that should give us 1/4 inch all the way around. I'm going to click Apply, and there it is. So we simply added 1/4 inch right in here, and now we're good to go. So we're going to click Close on that, and I'm just going to double check to make sure the router bit is going to fit through all this again. So we're going to go hit F12, go into that pocket toolpath. We're just going to do another verification. We just want to make sure that this router bit is going to work, because once this is set, we're good to go with the rest of the stuff. And we'll use everything that we're doing now as the reference to build out from. So we're going to double click the pocket toolpath. Now what we have to do is reselect this rectangle because we erased the original rectangle. So hold the Shift button down and simply select that rectangle. Now you have everything selected. Come down and click Calculate. And then reset the preview and preview all toolpaths. Now you see we have an issue right here. It actually did not go big enough for that scaling of that thing. So we're going to upsize it just a little bit more, and we're going to do that by closing the Preview Toolpath button, and we're going to hit F11. I'm going to go back to 2D View by clicking the 2D View tab, and I'm going to click off of this, off these vectors, so they deselect, and then I'm going to select that vector again, the outer rectangle, go back to Scale, or Set the Scale, and we're going to change it to 8.85, and then click Apply. We're going to close that and then click F12 again. We're going to go back into the pocket toolpath, and we're going to ask it to recalculate, reset the preview, and now we can see that there is toolpath all the way around. You can see that dark blue line. If we scroll in, it looks like it goes around multiple times. We'll take care of that. We're going to preview all the toolpaths, and there we go. We are good to go all the way through. So now we have set that outer boundary. We are good. Now I'm going to go back over to the design area, and one of the things that I forgot to do that we need to do on a regular basis is save the project. I'm going to save this project right now. And the way you save it, simply go up to the File Operations and click the Save button right there that I told you about before to insert. If you don't see a Save button there, just go up to File and click Save, and go to the directory where you are saving all this stuff. I have mine in what I call a modeling directory, and it is under a directory called Maze. and we're going to call that marble maze. And if I spell it correctly, a marble maze. There we go. I think we got it. Okay, now the project is saved. And you're going to want to save your projects occasionally because Vectric does not have an autosave feature. And the way you do that is by simply pressing the Control and S button, and that will save your project. And you just do that periodically, you'll be good to go. All right, now we want to go back to 2D view. We're ready to expand out everything. Now what we want to do is at this point is create the recess all the way around that the plastic piece is going to sit into. This guy right here. All right, so the way you do that is, first of all, know the screw sizes you're going to be working with. Now, I know what I'm going to be working with, and the design I'm going to be giving you, which is what we're working on right now, where it is going to be based on these brass screws right here. These are number 8s, and they're 5/8 inch long. So we have to take into account the width of the screw head, so the screw head is not in the way of the marble view. So I know that I need to create another rectangle that has 3/8 inch walls, that actually the space between the end of the track and the edge, let's put it like this, that the space between the edge of this track right there, if I can get the shadow on it, and the pocket is going to be 3/4 of an inch all the way around. So here's how we do this. Number one is we select this outer boundary and we're going to do an offset. We're going to come down to offset and layout and select the first item, which says offset. Click that, and we want to offset to the outside. So you want to select the first item, and then you're going to go to the distance. And for the distance, we want 0.375. And down below, you uncheck the Create Sharp Offset Corners. If this is checked just like that, uncheck it. And then you want to click Select New. That doesn't really matter. And then click the button Offset. When I do, you're going to see a new box get formed around this project. So I'm going to click Offset, and now we have a new box. And because I didn't select Create Sharp Corners, you can see it made a nice little radius there, and that's exactly what I want. So we're just going to leave it like that. Now we have to create the holes, and it's very simple. For these screws, we want to drill 1/8 inch holes, and that will be good for the threads of the screw to go into. When we actually create the plastic piece, we're going to have to upsize that, and this is where calipers also come in handy, where I can actually measure the screw thread. I'm actually doing it right through the plastic. Here, let's pull that screw out. So I'm measuring right inside the thread of the screw right there. And this is saying 0.11. So the maximum size of it is 0.159. So 1/8 of an inch drill hole will be good, and it's just really quick. If we do it on the CNC router, it'll be very quick and accurate. But we need to put it right on the center between this outer boundary right here and the first track. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm just going to randomly pick a point. We'll just say right about here. What I'm going to do is grab a straight line by clicking the polyline under Create Vectors, come over, and just about at this point right here, while it's hovering on the line, I'm going to click it. And then you can see that new line started right on this line here. And I'm going to come across. Now you see this little dashed line that's going across horizontally. That's telling me that my line is perfectly horizontal. And you can tell by the number just below my cursor. It says A0. So I know that that line is perfectly horizontal. And I'll bring it over until my cursor changes and I know it is snapped to the next line. I'm going to click there and we are going to finish. This is basically a construction line. Now we're going to drill or create the hole for the screw. And this is going to be where the screw is going to thread into on a piece of wood. So we're going to come up to Create Vectors and get a circle. So we're going to come over and click Draw Circle. We want that circle to be 0.125. And we want to have diameter clicked. Now you're going to come back over, you look at your cursor, It's got a plus and it's got a little circle above it, and that tells me we are in the circle mode. I'm going to come down and hover over that line. You see my cursor changed, and as I come towards the middle, it turns into a little bullseye. And that tells me I have snapped to the middle of the project. I'm going to click there, and now that circle is in place. I'm going to hit the escape button twice to deselect everything, and now I don't need this line anymore. I'm going to click that and hit delete. So what you're going to learn now is we're going to mirror this, and we're going to use shortcuts. And by what I mean by mirror is we have created the first hole right there. And now we're going to mirror that hole over to this side of the project. Now we're going to take both these holes and we're going to mirror them down to this side of the project so they're nice and even. It doesn't really require critical measurements. And you're going to learn some shortcut keys right here. So here's how we do this. First, we're going to select that circle. And if you take a look over on the other side of the project, right over here, there's nothing there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use shortcut keys. I'm going to hold the control button down, then hit the shift button and hold that, and hit the letter H while that circle is selected. And watch right where my cursor is, you're going to see the circle pop up. Basically what we just did by doing that is we took the one hole and we mirrored it across the project. Now you can use the letter H and you can use Control H. You'll see what the difference is. In this case, we needed to mirror it about the project material. So we needed to hold Control, Shift, and then hit H. Now we're going to mirror vertically. So you do the same thing again. It's going to be Shift, Control, and V. So we have to select both the circles, and I'm going to just click from right to left. I'm going to hold right here, hold my left mouse button down, and create a window that encompasses the two circles. And I let go, and now the circles are selected, but nothing else is selected. And now you'll see these circles pop up down here when I hit Control, Shift, and V. And now I've got all 4 screw holes set up in place. This is ready to go. Well, one of the things I don't like is the screw holes are maybe a little bit further from the edge that I like. So I'm going to fix that real quick by simply grabbing each one, these 2 here, and I'm going to use my arrow keys. On my keyboard, I'm going to go 1, I'm hitting the up arrow key, 6, 7, and then I'm going to just select the bottom 2, delete them, select the top 2 again, and I'm going to hit Control, Shift, and V again. And now I have mirrored more to the way I like it. It's really that quick. Remember, this little pro tip, Control, Shift, H will mirror horizontally based on the material size on the project blank. So it'll horizontal, and Control Shift V will mirror across the vertical based on the project material and based on the center of the project material. Well, we're about 40 minutes into this now, and we have designed the maze itself and the recess where this cover is going to sit in, and we've done the drill holes for the screws. Now it is time to do the outside shape of this, get this nice little rounded shape here, and just have some character to it. And then we're going to get into the cover. You're going to learn about working with sheets where we can take the recess design and the drill holes and we can transfer them over to another sheet and just work with what we got. So all the dimensions are already set in place. We just have to do some tweaks. Again, if you are getting something out of this video, then please give me a thumbs up. And if you feel like I've missed something or you have a question, then of course, put it down in the comments. And also put down in the comments what you've picked up so far, especially if you got an aha moment. We still got quite a ways to go on this to make sure that you understand the whole thinking process as we're going through this. But you're going to learn about sheets, you're going to learn about layers, and you're going to learn a lot of other tools as we move along. I hope you're getting something out of this video. Again, if you are, take that minute to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the video because this is how I get into projects for you to help you become a better creator. All right, let's get into designing this outer shape on the project, and then we'll get to the cover. Let's go. So now we've got our maze designed, our recess designed, our drill holes designed. Now we got to do the shape, and then you're going to learn how to take advantage of what you've just done and create what we call a new sheet where you can put this on in the same design, the clear piece, and set toolpaths up for all that in one design. This is so cool. I love the way this whole thing works. So let's first just get the outer shape of the project. And what we're going to do is create a rectangle again. So by going to the draw rectangle function and basically come up here and create a rectangle. It doesn't really matter. I just need to create a large rectangle larger than the project, just like that. And going to close out the project. And now here's another little cool pro tip that you want to know. I didn't center the project. I just created the rectangle, but we want it centered. So I'm going to, while it's selected, hit the F9 button. And now that just centered that rectangle. I want to get that arch over here and on the bottom, and I want to create the radiuses on the corner. So it's just a very quick, cool way of doing things. I'm going to just hit escape to deselect this rectangle. We're going to come over to draw vectors to the draw arc feature. Click that. Make sure the first item is selected where it says through 3 points. And we're going to come over right about at the upper level of this line right here and simply come across. Now you notice I get this dotted line. And what I was doing, I'm hovering over there, and Vectric kind of said, ooh, he wants to reference that. And so now when I come off of it, it's actually finding that point to reference by. Watch this. I'm going to come down to this corner, just hover for a second, and now Vectric thinks I'm referencing that point. So that's what's cool about that. So we're just going to hover over this line for just a second, and now we're going to come across, and we're going to click right there. The next thing I'm going to do is just come straight across. You see I have this dashed line going all the way across the screen. That means I'm horizontal. I'm going to come back here while it's horizontal to the outer edge of that rectangle and click again. And now it's attached to both edges of the rectangle. And we're simply going to come up and just raise that arc up to about something like that. And now we've got this little arch. Now I just want to move the arch up. I actually didn't bring it up all the way to the top because there are some areas that are going to be a little bit close. If you notice right, I'm going to hit the escape button to get out of the draw arc function. Right in here, it might be a little bit close in my design. So what I want to do is move this line up so it intersects with the upper line at the very top of this little radius that we did. So we're going to use another shortcut called move. And you activate that by hitting the M while the arc is selected. And now I can just come along. When I hover over the line, you see my cursor change. When I get to the peak of the line, it changed again, and it looks just like this plus with the arrows. That means I grabbed the upper center of the arc. Now hold my left mouse button down and just simply drag it up. Now you see this dotted line that's going up and down. That means it's holding center, and it's going to snap right there to the top of the rectangle. We are set, and now we're going to close that feature, the move feature, and while this is highlighted, I'm going to hit Control, Shift, and V, and this arc is going to show up down at the bottom as well. So Control, Shift, V, and now we mirrored the arc down at the bottom. Now we just want to trim this away by hitting the scissors. We're going to click the scissors and make sure this little check mark is checked right here in the scissors command. That will make sure that as you trim, things will rejoin. Vectors will join each other. So I'll click there, and there, there, and there. And now we've got our basic shape. I'm going to close that. And the last thing we need to do over this shape is actually create our cool radiuses. Like this final touch on the project here is going to make that nice little rounded edge and give this a nice organic look to it. So the way we do that is by using the radius tool. So we're going to come over edit objects right here and just come down to this little tool right here. It says fillet. Select that, and you want to make sure the normal fillet is checked right at the top where it says fillet type. And then we're going to set up our radius. And we are going to do a 1-inch radius. I'm just going to type in 1, and then you simply come over and hover over the corner of the material and click that, and now we have a nice radius there, and there, and there, and there. And we just click over all of them and close that. Now, I just want to take a quick look at this. Now, what I'm noticing on this project right now is we are actually coming really close to the edge of the project, and we may lose some support. So I'm actually going to make that rectangle just a little bit smaller. And these are some other tools that you can use. So here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to make it narrower on the sides. So we're going to click the outer rectangle, and I'm going to click it twice. And I simply want to downsize this just a tad. And we want to downsize it from the outside to the middle. And the way we're going to do that is simply scale it down. It's very easy. We go back to the edit objects, transform objects, and go to the object size, set selected object size, click that. And right now it says 11.3, and we'll make it 11.0 and see what happens. Click apply. We're going to watch that outer rectangle. It's going to shrink down and close, and I can actually work with that. A little bit thin there, but it's going to be okay. This is going to look just fine. And so with that, we have now designed out the core project right here. The next thing we need to do is design out the plastic piece. And this is where you're going to learn about sheets and carrying things over to another sheet. So cool. And how to edit sheets. Well, this is very cool. We have now designed up this guy right here, all the basic design elements. We're going to have to do the toolpaths for it. But first, we have to set up for the cover that's going to sit on top of this, the plexiglass cover. So now you're going to learn how to do that in the same drawing. You're going to learn a tool called sheets and how we're going to work with that. So one of the first things that we need to take into account is the actual holes here. Now, it's kind of hard for you to see, but you can kind of see them if I hold it just right. There's a hole here, a hole there. There's one right there, one right there. And basically, the screw is going to run through the project, through that hole, into the little drill hole that we've designed on this guy. So here's how this is going to work. The screw size itself, when we take our calipers, something that you need, and remember it's linked down below, we're going to measure the outer diameter of the screw right there, and right now it is 0.159. So we're going to make the screw hole a little bit bigger, like 0.175. But first, we got to create a new sheet so we can have a new design on it. Remember, the material here is 3/4 of an inch thick, or 0.755 thick. This BAMX board, which I strongly suggest that you actually get to make this project. The plexiglass, or the cover that we're going to be using, which is going to be plexiglass. Normally you'll use cast acrylic for stuff like this, but plexiglass is a lot cheaper, and all it's acting is simply a cover. So plexiglass is quite a bit cheaper. It's going to be 3/16 of an inch thick. I get it from Lowe's, but I will link that down below as well. And in the instructions, that is going to have the file, when I give you the file and all that stuff, the instructions are going to tell you everything that you need to get and where I got it at. Let's get ready to create this plastic piece right here. Now we know that the plastic piece fits just inside of this cutout. So that's our baseline, and we need the screw holes as a reference. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to create what's called a new sheet. And basically, it's like having a second drawing with the current drawing that we have. So this is one drawing. Now we have to add our second sheet. Now you look at the top, you've got the three icons here. You've got the one that says level, which we're not going to mess with at all. The one that says maze, that's where we created the layer. And then finally, the one that says sheet. We want to click the one that says sheet, and then we're going to hover over that sheet and click on it, and we're going to call this maze. Actually, I'm going to give it the name maze. I hit enter, now it's created. Now we want to create a new sheet. So you come down to this little button at the bottom where it says add new sheet. When I click that, you'll notice that there's another sheet added right up here. And I'll show you what that is in just a minute, but we're going to call this sheet cover. So we're going to click on it, once, and you'll notice that the maze is now grayed out in your drawing area, and there's this new white blank space. And sheet 1 is highlighted. We're going to click on sheet 1, and we're going to change that name to cover and hit enter. And now everything has kind of rearranged itself. Cover is now gone to the top. That doesn't really matter. We just need to know that we have two sheets. One is the wooden piece that we've just designed out. The other one is the cover. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, you're going to come over to this gray sheet. Now, before I do that, you'll notice at the bottom there's a name down there. It says maze, and the other one says cover. We're going to activate maze by double clicking right over the gray space. 1, 2, and now that activated that. And what you want to do is select the outer boundary of where the plexiglass is going to fit inside of, and then hold your shift button down and create a window around that little circle. Now, notice I'm going from left to right and enclosing that circle. It's really important that you go left to right because it won't select anything else. When I let go, it'll select the circle. But I'm just going to deselect the circle, and if I go right to left the same way, I'm going to select the inner boundary as well. Just like that, and it deselected the outer boundary. I don't want that. So I'm going to actually come over here, click the outer boundary, hold my shift button down, create a window around that circle, and let it go. Then I'm going to do this all the way around. I'm going to pick all 4 circles and the outer boundary. Now while those are selected, we need to copy that over to the new sheet called cover. So the way we do this is right click while they're selected. You don't have to actually put your cursor on the line. You can be anywhere in here and simply right click, and at the bottom of the menu that pops up, you want to come down to copy to and come over to sheet and then click cover. Now what that's going to do, it's going to copy those elements to the new sheet. So we're going to click that, and there it is. Now we've got just that one piece right here that has been, or the dimensions or the designs for it, copied over to that new sheet. We're going to click over to the new sheet by double clicking on the gray space. And there it is. Now the first thing I'm going to do now is set the parameters of the new sheet. In other words, the new sheet is 3/16 of an inch thick, whereas this material is 3/4 of an inch thick. So we got to tell the software that we're working with a different thickness. So with the new sheet, we can actually set those settings. And the way you do that is by coming over to the tabs all the way over to the left. And you're going to see the one called Sheets. You want to click that tab, and now you have this new menu here. It says Sheet List. And under Cover, we want to right click, and it's going to say Edit. So select Edit, and now here's all the defaults for that. Now you notice it's the same as it was for the maze part. It's 12 inches by 12 inches by 0.75 inches. Well, it's not 0.75, it's 3/16. So I'm simply going to select that, and I think we can go 3 divided by 16 equals, and there we go. Now we have our thickness set up for this sheet. We can go with a 12 by 12 if we want, or we can use a smaller sheet to fit this piece here. And I'm actually going to go with a smaller piece a bit. So let's try 10 by 10. What we're doing is we are changing the job size for this sheet, but not the other one. And I want the 10 by 10, and it looks like that's a little too small, even if I move these over. So we're going to go to 11 by 11. We're still going to use the upper left-hand corner and click OK. And now we're going to select everything here and hit the F9 button, and that's going to center up this piece of material, this actual cutout on the piece of plastic, and we're not going to have as much waste. So now we've got those basics set up. Now we have to change our hole size here. This is another little trick you're going to learn about the hole size. Remember, we did the hole size at 1/8 of an inch because we're going to use a 1/8 drill to actually drill the holes in the base piece right here. But we have to allow the screw itself to actually fit through the plastic piece, which it won't do if we go with 1/8 holes. So we have to make them bigger. We're going to do a really cool tool path, something you're going to learn to enable that with one router bit, the same router bit that's going to cut this out. It's really, really cool. So first, let's change the size of these screw holes. So we're going to click off of these items so they're deselected. We're going to come back in and select the circle. And then we're going to come back up to Design tab right here, click that, and then come over and click Circle, draw a circle under Create Vectors. Because the circle is selected, when we go into this draw a circle, the circle is actually going to be something we can edit. So when I click that, we can now change the diameter of the circle, and we're going to go, let's go, I said 0.175, we'll go to 0.18. Now I want you to watch the circle. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to click Apply. You're going to see the circle change size, and there it is. So we can close that and do this for every single circle. So I'm going to select that circle. I have to close it and then go back into circle in order to make these edits. I'm going to bring that circle over. We're going to click that and change that hole to 0.18. Click Apply and Close. That circle is now changed size. Same thing with this circle. Click the circle command. After I've selected the circle, click 0.18, Apply, and the circle is going to change size. We have to close the circle command. I'm going to scroll out or zoom out, and the way I'm doing that is by rolling my mouse scroll wheel. And if you don't have a mouse, you absolutely need to get a mouse. I can't stress this enough. I've seen way too many computer users not use this right here. You have to have this for doing the design work. It will make it so much easier. So the way I'm making this drawing move toward me and away from me is by simply rolling that wheel right there. And when I make it move around, we call it panning. I simply push down on that wheel and then move it around. So I'm going to show you on the screen. Right now, I'm just going to roll that wheel back and forth, and you can see I'm zooming in, zooming out. When I hold that little wheel down and I can move it around, that's called panning. Okay, so we have to change the size of this circle. That's the last circle. I've selected it. Go into Draw Circle, change that dimension to 0.18, click Apply. The circle's going to change size. There it is. And we are ready to go on that. Now, one other thing we need to do is, because the cutout here in the other drawing is the exact same size as this cutout right now, we've got to reduce the size of this cutout by just a little bit so it will drop inside. Otherwise, it'll be a really tight fit. So the way we're going to do that is by offsetting this line, that actual profile line, by just a little bit. And here's how we do that. We're going to select the outer line and come over to Offset and Layout right here and click the first item. It's offset. Select that, and now we're going to make it smaller, so we want to go inwards left. And we just need to change this size by just a little bit. We're going to change the distance by a 0.03. Not much at all. Now what you're going to see right in here is there's going to be a new line that's going to be created right between the circle and that line. And I'm not going to worry about anything that's checked off right here. We're just going to click Offset, and there is our new line. It's a highlighted line, and I think it actually went a little bit too far. It's going to make that plastic piece sit a little sloppy. So I want to undo this. You will want to undo things so many times, it's nuts. And the way you do that is simply by clicking the Control button, hold it, and hit Z, and that will undo. So that'll happen while we're in this command. So I'm going to hit Control Z, and you're going to see it go away. Hold Control button down and hit Z. And now we're going to reduce that change from 0.03 to 0.01 and click Offset. And now it is just slightly smaller. We're going to close that, and we just need to get rid of the outside line now. The outside line is the original line that we drew. this outer line, and we just offset that line just a little bit so that we can have this cut out, and it will drop in very nicely into the main piece. So we have to delete that line because we don't want to get confused. So we've got the outer line selected and hit the delete button, and there it is. And now we have to do something that we need to do on a regular basis, and that is save. So remember, hit the Control and S button, and that will save everything that we have done so far. So now we have drawn both components and we are ready to go. I just want to rehash what you have done so far. Number one is you found the maze. You know exactly how to get the maze. That's linked down below. We've changed the maze size and we did a trial run on a toolpath to make sure this whole maze gets carved out. And the router bit is not going to have some area where it can't get through because the lines are too close together. The second thing we did was make the outer track on the maze right here. And then we made the outer area where the cover is going to drop inside. And then we designed the outer boundary to give it this nice little elegant shape. And then we did the drill holes. And then we have created a sheet and modified our design so the screw holes will be in the exact same place on the plastic cover. They're bigger holes, so the threads will drop through here, but it will have to screw in to the base piece right there. And we resized the outer boundary of this so it will drop right in to the masterpiece there. So at this point, it is now time to actually create some tool paths. There is one more thing that we need to do, but before we get to that, I just want to ask if this video is helping you out, giving you ideas, and showing you how to navigate some things that seem a little more complex, and it's starting to make a little bit of sense to you, then definitely take a minute to give me that thumbs up, please. That just tells me I'm teaching you the right stuff. And if you have some questions about what I've done so far, please put them down in the comments, and I will get to those questions. Maybe even shoot a video and call you out and give you a shout out kind of thing. Let's fix this one more thing. And what this has to do with is adding a little bit of elegance to this project. And I want to show you exactly what I mean. So I'm going to switch over to the toolpath area by clicking F12 on the keyboard. And we're going to go back and recalculate this whole project. Actually, we want to make sure that all the proper lines are selected. So we're going to go into the toolpath, go down to Pocket 1 and double click it. And we want to make sure that the internals of the maze are selected and that outer wall to the outside ball track are selected. And we're simply going to recalculate. And then you want to preview all toolpaths. And there we go. So now when you look at this, when you zoom in, you see we got a lot of sharp corners right here. And in other areas, we have rounded corners. And that's going to make the maze look a little funny. So what we want to do is round out everything so it's just a nice smooth flow. It's got a good organic look to it. And the way we're going to do that is by rounding out all the corners in the maze. So here's how we do this. First of all, we're going to close the Preview Toolpaths menu by clicking Close. And we are going to go back to Design by hitting F11. The other way you can do that is by coming up this little arrow right there at the very top. Click that. It'll say Switch to Design Commands. Click it. Now we're back in Design. And we want to go back to 2D View. So we'll click that. And what we're going to do is add radiuses to everything inside this whole thing here. And so here's how we do it. First of all, you want to remember we're using a 1/4 inch ball nose end mill. So every radius needs to be at minimum what the radius of that end mill would be, which would be 1/8. So we're going to go into Edit Objects right here and come down to the third row, first icon where it says Fillet. We've been here before. Select that, make sure Normal Fillet is still selected, and change the fillet radius to 0.125. Now, all you have to do is come out, and on every corner inside the maze, you just start clicking right on the corner, and you see that we are now creating these radiuses. Now, while we're here, I do want to show you something kind of interesting that you might not have noticed as we've been building this up. You see how this line right here, it tends to stagger downwards, or this line right here tends to lean in one direction. We can straighten all that out if we want to, but it's not necessary because when everything is carved, it's not even going to be noticeable or perceptive to the viewer, even by you after it's carved. Sometimes we want to make these whole projects perfect. But in this case, it doesn't really matter. As long as that ball can get through the entire maze, we're good to go. But I will show you real quick another little tip that you can straighten these lines out if you wanted to. So I'm going to get out of the radius command. We'll come back to this and finish it. But so we know that this line now let's go with this one. We haven't added a radius to it yet. This line is not straight, and we come over and find another line right there that's not straight, leaning a little bit. And this one is straight. We're going to select that one, and we want this one selected because we want to make sure we select these lines. So I'm going to hold the shift button down and select that one too. Now we're going to hit the N button. That N stands for node. We're going to click it and you're going to get all these little black points that come up. And we're going to come across here. We're going to create a window around these nodes along that one line. So once I let go, you see all these nodes are now red. And we probably have a couple more over here, which we do, and that line's a little crooked too. So I'm going to hold the shift button down, select those two nodes and those two nodes, as long as they're in a line. And now what I'm going to do is hit the letter Y. And what that's going to do, it's going to align all those nodes so they're nice and straight. Remember, in this case, it doesn't really matter. People aren't going to see it. They're trying to just get through a maze. But if I hit the letter Y, I want you to watch this. We're going to zoom into one that we know is off right there. I'm going to hit Y, and these two nodes are going to line up. And there it goes. Now, all these nodes are in a line together. They are at level. Now, what if we want to do one like this? We can see very clearly this line is leaning from here. It's basically going that way. We do the same thing, but let's find a different one. We'll take this one here, and I'm going to grab the nodes right along that line right there. And now we've got them selected. This node is red, that one's red, that's red, that's red, and we're going to hit X. And what that's going to do is going to line them all up in the X direction, the ones that we have selected. So when I hit X, let's find the ones we got. Watch this line right here. And I'm going to hit X, and now that's all straightened up. You can do this all the way through the project. Again, it's not necessary at the maze. So just a little quick fix for you if you need to get nodes lined up. That's the way you do it. Okay, let's finish putting these radiuses in, and then hopefully we didn't screw things up by adjusting these nodes. So we're going to go back in. We're going to hit escape to get out of node mode, go back to the fillet command, and we are simply going to start picking these corners again and just get them all rounded out. I'm going to stop the camera while I'm doing this because it's going to take about 5 minutes to get all these taken care of. But you can already see that it's actually starting to smooth out and look better already. Once you get done adding your radiuses, you just want to take a quick double check. There's a quick way you can check. We're going to close the radius command. We're going to go back into the toolpath menu by hitting F12. We're going to recalculate by hitting the recalculate button. And what that's going to do is recalculate the toolpaths because we just changed everything. And now that we're done there, we want to go to the preview toolpaths by clicking this button right here. Reset the preview by clicking that button, and then preview all toolpaths. And now you're going to notice that all the sharp corners are gone, and now it's a much more elegant marble track. And it looks like nothing has been affected by adjusting those few nodes that we adjusted. So at this point, we're good to go. The last thing I want to do is put everything on its own layer. And you remember, we created the first layer, which is the maze layer. And now I'm going to put other things on their own layers, and it's just to keep things separated. So first we're going to go back to 2D view, go back to the drawing menu, and we're going to select the holes, only the holes. I'm creating a window from left to right around the holes. I select the first two and then hold the shift button down, then select the second two. I'm going to right click, when the menu's going to open, it's going to say move to. We're going to select layer and we're going to create a new layer. So you create that new layer, we're going to call that holes. And the color is fine, we can leave it black, click OK. And now those holes have been moved to a new layer. Now remember, up in the layer area, we had bitmap and maze, and now we just added holes. Now what we can do is turn the holes off, get them out of the way by clicking the little black button next to it. And that now turns them off. But just notice that holes now turned red and it's bold. That's because it is currently active. So we're not going to worry about that right now. We're simply going to add a new layer, and we're going to select the cover cutout or the recess, which is this line right here. This is where the plastic sheet is going to go into. I'm going to click that, and then going to go into, we're going to right click after we've selected it and go down to move to layer, and we're going to put it on layer 1. We want to rename layer 1, so we got to go up into the layer menu, select layer 1, and this is going to be recess. Hit enter, and that is now selected. If you want to change the color of the lines, just hit the little black box next to it. The color palette will come down. We'll change the recess to red. And now when we come over here or click off the menu, you can see recess is now red. The final layer we're going to make is called cutout. And that's going to be this element right here. So we're going to click it, right click it. It's going to say move to layer, new layer, and we're going to call it cut out. What we're doing here is we are organizing our whole drawing. And you're going to see how this is going to work. Now remember, when I said about layers, we are creating these plastic sheets on top of each other like these projectors, and each layer has something drawn on it. Now we're separating out this drawing to each layer so we can take them out as we need to and turn them on and off so we can create toolpaths just on one simple thing and not accidentally create a toolpath on something else. So we've created this cutout layer. Let's color it blue, a nice bright blue. Click OK, and we're going to click off into this space right there. Now we have a blue outer layer. The holes are gone. We can come up to the layers area. Now we've got 4 layers here. I'm going to turn on the maze layer, or activate it by clicking the word maze. And then we're going to turn off recess and cutout. And now there is the maze, and look at that. Just by doing that, I detected that I missed a radius right there. So we're going to just go back into fillet, and the numbers are right, 0.125. We're on normal fillet. We'll simply click that corner and then close that. Just take a quick another gander, make sure I got everything. So the whole thing is now separated out in layers. We have not done the cover at this point. We don't need to. I'm not going to, because it's such a simple drawing. At this point, my friend, it is time to create the toolpaths. You've been here for a while. Like I said before, this has been helping you out as you've been moving along, and hopefully you've been following along. Then hit the little thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel. This is how deep I go into all this stuff. Very difficult videos to make to help you become a better creator. I've told you you are going to learn a bunch of stuff. Well, my CNC brother or sister, you and I have designed up this exact marble maze. One thing I want you to do before you check out of this video is make sure you save your project. And if you got something out of this video, please take that minute to hit the little thumbs up button just below this video. That tells me I'm doing something right, but even more so, I'd love to see a comment from you. Did you gain something out of this video? What did you learn? Was there an aha moment? Or maybe, is there something that I missed, made it a lot harder? I would love to see that. Of course, subscribe to this video if you want to get really good at this stuff, because this is how deep I go into helping you understand the software. And the CNC router and router bits. By the way, stop by idcwoodcraft.com to get your CNC router bits to carve out your amazing CNC projects. We'll make sure we take care of you. Now, down in the description of this video is a link to video 2, but it's also going to pop up on this screen like right here when this video is done, which is just a couple more seconds. And you can now go to figure out how to do the toolpaths, because that's what's next. We need to make sure that we do toolpaths the right way to understand how we want to make sure we clear things out and cut things the right way and what CNC router bits you want to use. Again, we're going to dive deep into toolpaths so you understand the philosophy of toolpaths. And then, of course, video 3 is getting your project out to the CNC router. Now, I want to let you know that this exact file right here is available to you. I make this available with a very specific CNC router bit. This one right here, it is the down-cut 1/4-inch ball nose end mill. Ball nose end mills have a tendency to tear up your projects really, really bad. And that's why I came up with the down-cut ball nose. It is sensational for this type of project. No tear out, no chip out, one cut, and you've got a beautiful marble maze. So if you want this file, it comes with that bit, and we also send you a ball bearing for this exact maze too. So you'll be all set up. You get the file, you get the design, you get the G-code and instructions. With that, my friend, it is time to check out of this video. I will see you in the toolpath video, part 2 of this series, where you learn how to do toolpaths. Have yourself a great CNC day. I'll see you in the next video. idcwoodcraft.com